Hello and welcome to part 16 of the mod making series for the mod Locked Loot Containers. And in the last one, we got the base framework set up, at least. I can't say it's working because I didn't do any testing, but for the open spell detection, when you click on the chest if you have the open effect currently active. And I'm fairly confident that should work at least. But then after that, we started work on a similar thing for the collision detection, or the basically the collision detection for the chests and the missile projectiles in the game, such as spells and arrows and such. I wasn't as confident about this, but when I did a little bit of testing inside, inside Daggerfall Unity, I realized that the NPCs have the flat NPCs that you can find like in buildings and quest givers and stuff like that, or whatever, out in the world. They all have a very similar way that they're made to the registered activation objects that you can register. That being that they are created with that their game object is created with a collision. I don't know if it's a collision box exactly for them. I think it might be. I think it's collision sphere instead of a box, but it's the same deal essentially. And they both also have the is trigger thing set to true when they're created, which I was thinking is going to cause a problem, and it doesn't necessarily mean it won't, but because these NPCs don't have this on collision enter or on trigger enter. However, they do cause arrows. Or, okay, well, with the arrows it was hard to test, but they, at least for the spell projectiles, they cause them to impact them. So if you shoot a projectile spell at a NPC in a building, when it hits them, it'll impact them as if they were as if it was impacting a geometry object or a wall or a floor, which is exactly what I want for the chests and stuff. At least just from seeing that, I'm assuming that it should hopefully do that part at least. Now, with the other part that is also very important, obviously, is our logic here with the on collision enter and on trigger enter. I'm not sure. I'll have to test it. But that's what I plan on doing today, is trying to finish this off and then hopefully testing it afterward. So the first thing I'm going to do is add the additional logic for, to see if it actually is working for both this and the arrows. So I'm primarily going to be adding a sound effect for both that are distinct, so I can know, like, if these parts at least run. And then, as well as I might actually, or probably actually, be doing some live debugging to see what actually happens here, like like how often these things run actually, like maybe if the player is standing near it, it also does on collision enter and stuff like that, so I know what the kind of potential load is with this, which it shouldn't be that much, but we'll have to see. But yeah, so I'm gonna do that, and then I will pause the recording, and I will be right back when I am done with that to explain kind of what I did. And then afterward, I will probably pause again, launch up Unity, and then we'll do some testing. So I will see you in a bit. Alright, I'm back after about half an hour of stuff. So what I changed, I didn't really change like anything in the containers.main, or the container lock loot containers main. All I did was I changed the play one shot sound clip to dot player bash sound, which isn't any different than what or what was it? Oh no, yeah, it was the unlock sound. Now I changed it to the player door bash sound. And now the interesting stuff that I did in LLC object was I had to add a few of these usings, which is fine. And something I've never used before, but I saw in Daggerfall Action Door, these things that are above the class called require component, which at least from what it says the require component attribute automatically adds required components as dependencies. Now, I really don't have any idea what that does or how it works. Besides, you do require component, then you give it the type, whatever that you want. In this case, audio source. I don't know what it does. Like, I kind of have an idea. Like I say here is like, I'm assuming it just, as soon as this thing gets created, this chest object in this case, the LLC object, I'm assuming as soon as this component gets created in some way, it just automatically has it, has a audio source in this case or whatever attached to it, component attached to it. That's what I'm assuming it does. Because then later I put this as a variable in it, audio source with the no thing. But then this is also what is done in Daggerfall Action Door, is that it does an awake, a Unity awake method, whatever, which basically means as soon as this or like before this thing even gets created, it does this to it or something like that. It's like slightly before start essentially. So what happens is that that audio source, that empty one I had, I assign it that variable to get component audio source. So that would make me think that, okay, that means that this object by default, because of this require component thing, has this audio source already attached to it. So that's my guess of what it does. I have to see if it actually works like that or not, but that's my guess, which is pretty handy. And then the other stuff I did is that in the arrow thing, as well as the spell projectile or whatever, like the single target at range and area at range projectile types, under those, I added basically the same logic that the chest batching does. That being like it just does that all the stuff that it replaces the old chest with the new open one or whatever, the new open object chest version. The only thing I really had to change was, since this code is inside of the actual component code itself, that being LLC object or the chest, I don't have to refer to it as like chest dot whatever. In this case, I could just kind of put the things that are that are potentially inside of this component, such as, without having to put chest, I just put game object dot transfer, which I could probably simplify it even more from there, but I'm just keeping it like that. So I was able to take out the chest things, and I was able to directly refer to stuff like the what was it? The load ID and the attached loot that is in this object and such. So I was able to clear it. I was able to clear out a few more lines and simplify a little things here and there because of that. But it essentially worked the same way. I changed the text so I could tell which one got triggered or not. As well as, I guess an important thing, I changed the position of the destroy part to be lower. So the sound effect I wanted to play before this thing gets destroyed, because I'm assuming that when this gets destroyed, this entire component gets destroyed as well, obviously. So there would be something wrong if I had this destroy happen earlier than all this stuff, I guess. And actually, when I think about it, in this case, let's take those destroys and not put them inside the if statements, but just put them right at the very end. Right at the very end of this do collision thing in this case. Because, not that I think it matters, because that, it'll just destroy it, I guess. Yeah, I don't know exactly how that works in that sense, but we'll have to see. But the idea being that hopefully that the one-shot sound that I have for them, in this case, the door bash for the arrow hitting it, and the enemy Daedra Lord bark, which should be his like laugh and stuff, just to be a little bit more distinct from the other things, when I hit it with a spell, or at least I hit it with one of these type of spells, the single target at range or the area at range. And they both have different text. So my hope is that The sound clips will fully play they'll fully play before the object gets destroyed. Otherwise, the destroy I would have to delay it so the audio clip can play fully or something like that. I don't know. But that's why I put it lower. I have no idea if it'll work, but that's just my guess that it might do something like that. Um, I mean, the only other guess I had, the assumption is that if I destroy this before other stuff runs, then there'll probably be a problem. It'll probably be like this object does not exist kind of crap. But yeah, besides that, that's all that really changed, and hopefully it works. I don't know. I mean that this LLC object is supposedly being. Oh wait, well, it itself is not getting a collision. It itself is not having a collision box, but the object it's attached to, that being the billboard that it is created with, should have that collision box. So yeah, I didn't even consider that until now. So that could be an issue potentially. But yeah, I don't know, and we'll just have to see, I guess. Because I've only tested with I mean, I guess it works for the NPCs. I'm assuming like I figure how it kind of works like that, but I don't know. We'll just have to see. But anyway, launch up. I'm going to launch Unity, the Unity editor. It's going to take probably goddamn forever, which is okay, but I'll have to wait for that, unfortunately. And then we will actually do some testing of all this stuff that we've done, and hopefully we have good results. But we'll have to see. So I will save this stuff. I'll save this stuff. I will launch up the Unity editor, and when I am ready, I will I will unpause the recording, and I will see you then. All right, so I am back. So I got the editor open and everything, and we are ready to test, I guess. Honestly, testing is one of my least, is the things that I have the most trouble getting myself to do. Just because, man, it is so frequent or so easy to just be like, oh man, when you're coding, you're just like, all right, I'm just doing all this stuff, and I'm hoping it might work, but I don't know if it does. But then when you actually go to test it and stuff, one, it takes some more effort and everything because you actually have to like do something. And then two, that's where all of the bugs and stuff will start showing up actually, and it's just so weirdly stressful in a way to be like, all right, now it's time to go test. Ah, well, let's see what happens first with the simple things. Let's do grab mode. Uh-oh. There we go. Well, that was a quick one. Null object reference. Well, how do I change my modes again? What the heck? There we go. Steal mode. Alright, that works. That works, so that's good. And opening the chest worked, so that's good too. Now, yeah, info mode, that didn't work. So something's up with the text box related things. Let's try talk, which I think does the same thing. Yeah, seems to. Do that again, so that works very nice at least. And let's make a open spell of some kind. And we're in grab mode. So let's cast open up harder. Alright, so ready to open. So now when I click this, it should open. Yes. Okay. Now how about this? Nope. Okay, that is perfect. Through use of magic. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to see and what I expected. Alright, so that's cool. Um, so at least in this testing, or in this thing, we tested from stuff we've done like 2 days ago, a day or two ago. So grab mode, um, info and talk mode are not working, but the actual lockpicking one are working. So I have to see why these text boxes are having a null object reference. So I might as well go do that. So I will pause again and be right back when I've made some changes. Alright, so I think I fixed it. The null object reference. It was, at least from what I saw, it was just a simple, mistake on my part. The way I had the messages being called or whatever. So I fixed that, and I just put them directly in the thing instead of, what I was doing. So hopefully it should work now. Alright, so we're in grab mode. Here, let's do info mode. Good job, you inspected the chest. Very nice. Talk mode. Good job, you inspected the chest. Very nice. Now let's do grab mode. And we got copy, accept, and cancel. So cancel works. At least it appears to work. Fine. Copy should do inspect. Beautiful. Accept should do lockpick. Very nice. Very good. Not unexpected, but very nice nevertheless. So let's try one more time with the open effect I made. And we're in grab. Let's go in info mode. Yes, and it still works. Very good. Nice enchanted amulet. Now is where the fun part begins, where we'll have to test the projectile stuff. So first would be, I guess, arrows to see if they, well, actually no, would be bashing. Forgot about that. So let us test some bashing. Now, what's the crouch button? There's the crouch button. So from, yeah, what it looks like. Aha! Alright, good. So it's not, the box collider is actually a little bit bigger than the sprite, which is fine. But cool enough, it did work. Nice. Alright. So that's very cool that that worked. Not that I particularly wasn't expecting it to work, but I was expecting, you know, potential problems. Clear corpses. It's not a vanilla command. That is a command that I made in the useful console commands mod. It is a useful console command, believe it or not. Alright, so it appears that bashing with melee works fine. Let's try it again. Yes. Very nice. So that works. Let's get a bow and see if the more fun part with the projectiles and missiles works. Alright. Let's see what happens. Uh-oh. Well, that does not appear to be working. Which, honestly, I did expect. So what am I going to do with that? Well, first, before we jump to conclusions, but I'm pretty sure that's not working. But let us see if spell projectiles break on them like they do other things. So let's make a Go spell maker. Let's make a damaging spell projectile. Alright. Let's cast flare. So as you can see, it hits into like stuff like models and the ground and the ceiling and even the door when it's closed, at least. When it's open, I believe the door is not actually collidable. I could be wrong there. But it won't hit into things like this loot pile or these torches, as you can see, because they are not, they do not have a collider as far as I know. But let's see if that is the same deal with this, because I'm thinking that since this has a collider, I believe, it should at least break on this. Oh, wow. Which is the case. Okay, well, that's cool. I actually didn't expect that to work at all. I mean, I was expecting it to what do you call it? To collide with it, but I wasn't expecting it to actually do the behavior that I had it in do collision. So that's pretty cool. Now that makes me think that there's something specific with the arrows, then. Maybe it's the case that the arrows are different somehow. And maybe they don't collide the way I'm thinking they should. Clearly the arrows are not working. But I don't know if that's a result of the arrows themselves or something else. I'm gonna look into some stuff. Not that much, probably, and then I'll be right back and see if I could possibly do a live debugging, like I was talking about, with involving the projectile stuff. But that's awesome that the spells appear to be working, so that's great. I still want to do live debugging, though, so I will be right back in a moment. Okay, so I'm finally back. So I did a bunch of stuff, probably over like a whole hour almost, if not more, I'm not even sure, for a pretty decent amount of time. I did some live debugging off camera, and I figured out basically all of the problems I was having, which is pretty awesome, so I might as well showcase it working. So here is a projectile spell. It does the thing, as we were seeing before, but this time it's actually playing the audio clip I wanted. It's kind of hard to hear because I changed it to something to play at point. And I had to do some screw around with some audio source crap to actually get it to work like that. It's not perfect, but it's basically exactly what I wanted, even if it's not like perfect. And I'll do fireball as well. And let's do it with the arrow as well. And you'll hear it real close, you'll hear the bash noise. Like that. And then if I'm real far away, you can hear it from farther away. And it works just like I was hoping, basically. Now that I showed that, I think I will just show you... I'll just show you the code and stuff that I changed to get that result after the debugging and such. So, or try to explain it at least. For the audio source thing, I added something down here, another check down here. If audio source, that being this thing, is, you know, not null or whatever, then this is at awake, then game object.add component, Daggerfall audio source. So the idea being that down here it's checking for Daggerfall audio source components, but it wasn't able to find it, so the audio wasn't playing. So now I just added my own here. I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but yeah. You know, honestly, let's see if I can do it over here. I mean, there's nothing I'm doing to it, so I might as well try, I guess. Daggerfall audio source. I don't know if it'll work for stuff like this, but who knows. Well, at least it says it does. I guess we'll add this variable too, even if we don't need it. I don't know. I don't know. Then do the same thing here. DF audio source. And that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I didn't consider doing that just now, but where is it? Where was it? I just had it. I suppose there's not much reason I can't just do it like that, I guess. I mean, I'll add the audio source even if I don't need it, I guess. I don't know. Necessarily? I don't know. Okay, let's try it out. Fuck it. Let's try it out and see what happens. Yeah, I don't know. I'm honestly, well, like, I'm not that surprised, but I'm kind of surprised that, at least so far, it's working at this point better than I expected. So that's good. Though, I mean, this is something I'm gonna be doing like later, obviously, so I'm not super concerned about it, but you know, the only main thing that I'm like really like, oh shit, is potentially save data, but I think I'll be able to handle that not too bad, just like this to some extent, but I don't know, I'm surprised how well it's working. I mean, I suppose it should work, considering the amount of stuff I've done with it, so I don't know. I don't know. This was stuff that I was expecting to be a lot more, bullshit. Alright, so that seems to be working. Alright, so I'll just keep it attached with the Daggerfall audio source instead of audio source and that shit. Skip that step. Nice. Alright, now, after doing that, now I will try to explain what I did, besides that. So, yeah, I got that audio source thing I was talking about. That's just so the sound clip can play that's so the sound clip can play at the location that the chest actually is, and not just in the player's, like, right next to the player's ear. Like it does with this one right now. This will probably change later, but how it is for right now, at least, with the unlocking sound. At least that one makes sense, because you're right near it. But these, it wouldn't make them as much sense. But, yeah. So, the do collision thing, it actually works, and it seems to be it seems like most of the time, at least when it was doing the debugging here, it was always from on trigger enter instead of on collision enter. I don't know why that's, I don't know. It was just always seemed to be this one, which I'm fine with either one working. So it would always be giving me the other one. And the other one being the actual, like, missile that was going into the collision of the chest in this case. So the issue that I was having with the arrows, like, wait a minute, let's yeah, let's remove this. Well, I guess maybe let's not remove that yet, because that's part of the explanation, is, speaking of which, let's collision.gameObject. Let's do, you know what, I mean, it's working right now, so I'm not even, because I don't even know if this stuff with the collision works, so I'm not too concerned about that. So let's get rid of that. Well, no. Let's try to explain how it worked. So, it was always being the on trigger enter, so it was always getting the other one. So it was always going down here. Now, the issue we were having with the arrows not working, but the spells working, is that the spells, their projectile was just a billboard with the, like, missile thing attached directly to it as its game object. So it was able to find that handily, and then it would be able to go through here because missile was not equal null and stuff, because the missile was actually being found as this Daggerfall missile. It was being found, and then it would go through the rest of this and do its stuff. But the issue with the arrow is that the actual collision part, or whatever, was this other part, was being the mesh, I guess, the mesh of the arrow instead of the missile component of it, which it was a parent of. Like, the missile part was a parent of the mesh, but the mesh was the thing being passed down here. So what I realized I had to do was find the parent's component for the missile. In this case, it would be the actual, like, the part of the arrow that had the other characteristics similar to the spell projectiles. So I had to basically kind of, like, circumvent the mesh part and tell it to go to the mesh's parent. So then, just doing that, and it, for some reason, I don't know how it works exactly. For some reason, doing that, get component in parent also works for the spell projectiles. So it works basically exactly the same. So there's no reason to do what I was doing for this one. Other.gameObject.transform.get component. So that's how I fixed that. Was I just did missile.other, that being the collision, the collider thing. Dot get component in parent, and then the missile thing, and then it was finding it for both the missile, for the spell projectiles and the arrows. And the whole time the arrows were being detected. That's why I didn't show unfortunately, in the when I was doing the live debugging, is that every time I would shoot at it, it would actually be detected with the arrow and stuff. It's just, it would immediately get down here, missile equals null, because it couldn't find the missile component inside of that mesh, and then it would just return, so then it wouldn't do the rest of the stuff. But then as soon as I started doing this, then it would start doing its thing. So, yeah, that was the biggest thing, and I thankfully realized that fairly quickly, thankfully due to the live debugging showing me that, and also the Unity editor. When I looked at the Unity editor, pausing it, my pause hotkey is control plus shift and P plus P, and then it would pause the game. So I paused it while those the missiles were in flight, like the arrow and the spell projectile, to see what their actual, in the editor, what their components and stuff were that were attached to them. But yeah, and then it would check after that the is arrow, so then it would check if it's an arrow and then do all that crap. And the same thing with the, if it wasn't an arrow, then it would check if it's one of these types, and then it would do all that crap. Which was the biggest thing that I wanted to actually work in that case. And then I had issues with the audio source thing, but then as you just saw, I kind of messed around with it. So instead of using, what's this one? Instead of using play one shot and using the player's audio source, DF audio source as the audio source, or whatever reference for that, I eventually was like, oh, okay, play clip at point instead. And so now it plays, and I gave it the position of the chest game object in this case. So game object.transform.position. And then it started to work for the audio. Even though it's getting destroyed, is that it's still playing the audio thing, which is great, because I wasn't expecting it to actually work like that. But it does, thankfully. At least in this case with this play clip at point, I'm sure does some magic there, so that isn't an issue with the destroy part. But yeah, that's like the main stuff that I did, and I was pretty surprised that it all kind of worked out like it did. So now, what I'm probably gonna do is, just for the fun of it, I'm probably going to make a quick little showcase, just a video showcase of the progress I have thus far. That being like with this stuff, just showing like probably like a minute or two clip of the chest like opening with the various different things interacting with them, the spells, the arrows, the bashing, and the lock picking, and the spell, and all that stuff. Just for the hell of it. Just maybe to get interest in it and stuff, and things like that. But you know, it's a cool thing to be able to show the progress so far, which is, I'm amazed, not so much amazed, but I'm very surprised at the progress in some ways. Even if it's slow, it is definitely steady, I would say, which is pretty cool. But the other thing that I wanted to do that I almost forgot about was the AoE detection for these spells. Now, let's see, for that, where was it? Rest bashing, not that. I think it was up here. The open spell, at least, check on blah blah blah. Projectile thing. Where's the AoE thing I had written down? I knew I had it written down somewhere. I guess it wasn't in there. Where was it? I had it. It's definitely here somewhere. AoE. No? AoE. There it is. I didn't even, it was right there. No idea how I might do the AoE detection right now, but hopefully figure it out somehow. Something eventually. Yeah, with that, so the missiles, when they hit something, they do, at least with the ones that have, do area on effect, the ones that have a area at range sort of deal. They have this AoE can strike any number of targets within range with an option to exclude caster. So this is only checking for entities though. And it's private, so it's like, eh. So collider overlaps, physics overlaps sphere. Collider overlaps. So what I can probably do, now that I know kind of how this collider stuff works to some extent, is I don't know how big the AoE is. I don't think it's huge. Like it's kind of hard to tell just by these numbers or whatever. It's what those values actually mean in turn, what they translate to into a size around in the game world. So I don't think it's like a very big area of effect that the default area of effect sort of thing does. Let's see. So there's sphere. Where the hell was it? I just was looking at it. Overlap sphere. So explosion radius is 4. So maybe it's probably like not exactly small, but probably not huge either. Like a radius of 4. You know, it's you have to obviously know what the what that translates to into the in-game world or whatever. So 4 is probably not exactly small, but it's probably not that big either. But so what I'm thinking I can do, or what I might be doing in this case, is trying to do something what I've just done here, essentially, where I'm detecting when something comes into the collision. But in this case, detect when this collider of this this AoE collider that it creates. Collect AoE targets and ignore duplicates. And then basically detect when that happens and then use that to determine what I want to do in the AoE sort of deal. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure. So collider, this is collecting the collider overlaps physics, not overlaps position. So it's collecting the colliders of whatever this overlap sphere goes into of the other colliders. And for each overlap, let's see, AoE entity overlaps, get component. If it finds the component of the Daggerfall entity behavior, then it ignores everything else except those entities. So what I'm thinking is somehow seeing if I could do something like that, where, because this overlap sphere is something a little bit different probably than because this is probably more so just being like creating a sphere that doesn't necessarily have collision, but it's anything that goes within it that it has a collider, it'll collect that and put it in that list or in that array, and then it's doing something with that. So that doesn't necessarily mean that it has its own collider that will be detected. which is the challenge there. Unfortunately. Yeah. Like, I really might not be able to have a great solution for this in this case because, like, I said, and it does the same thing here with the AoE around the caster. Is that it's probably mostly just doing its own little self-confined thing and then acting upon those things that happen to be within it. Not so much making its own thing and then I can detect that like I am with the collisions and then use that to do my own stuff. Because it's doing its own thing just for the entity behaviors and such. So, unless I added something to this, like to this, into the code base for this specific thing or made a PR, I might not have an easy way, because I don't want to do some really messy crap where it's like, oh yeah, I have to do a million different things and then possibly make worse performance in some way just to do this. So, for right now, I'll have to see. I mean, I might come up with something, but for right now, that's the only way I could think of possibly doing it. The way it seems to currently work. But because this thing isn't a, you know, it's not something I could ask for. It's not. It's a private. It's a self-confined variable within this, so I can't even like be like, oh, let me find my own things that were overlapped. So yeah, I'd probably have to do my own crap or something to try for this. So I might, for now, this might just be a work in progress sort of deal. For that AoE specific part, which is fine. The fact that I got some of the other stuff to work, the important stuff to me at least, like the arrows and the spell projectiles colliding and stuff. Even if that's not that important, it's just kind of neat and a cool kind of interaction, whatever makes it feel like they're more real, the objects, and possibly able to do different things with them. But yeah, I'm going to add that stuff to some comments here, just for my own sake later, and I'm going to do some other stuff, but for now, I think that's probably the best I could have really explained it for what I did today. And I'm very happy with the results so far. But, yeah, in the next one, I'm not sure exactly what we're gonna do. I'll have to see what what comes up, but maybe we'll start finally getting into the more, like, detailed, nuanced stuff involving, like, the materials, the different stuff, like when to spawn those things, or when to give those attributes, depending on what context, or what the loot is, like, you know, modifying loot and changing that kind of stuff. All those kind of smaller details, because this is mostly the base, like, framework of the quote-unquote interactivity, mostly done, besides the detail parts of it. Like, the base framework of it is mostly done, it seems, which I'm very happy with. So, I'm not sure what I'll be doing exactly next in the next episode, but hopefully it's getting into more of the nuanced little polished detail related stuff instead of the base stuff. But yeah, I would like to thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.